Hello and welcome to AFcast. I am your host Malcolm, and today we'll be talking about the Aquatic update that came out in Minecraft, otherwise known as 1.13. So, of course, first I'm going to talk about the news. I don't really have anything for this past week. I covered it last week if you want to watch that podcast episode. I also don't really have much for this next week besides the games. There hasn't really been much activity. There has been releases on release dates, but I'm only going to release that on the weeks that they will come out. So for games, we have Yakuza Kiwami 2 for PlayStation coming August 28th. Then we also have Strange Brigade coming for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One on August 28th. Blob 2, which is coming out for Switch on August 28th. Middle Earth Shadow of War Definitive Edition coming for PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One on August 28th. Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, which is coming for Switch, will be available August 28th. Firewall 0 Hour for PSVR is coming on August 28th. Rocket League Ultimate Edition is coming for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One on August 28th. Donut Country is coming for PC, PlayStation 4, and iOS on August 28th. And then for August 29th, we have Green Hell, Steam Early Access. Okay, so, yeah, which is coming for PC. Then we have PES 2019 for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One, which is coming on August 30th. 2 Point Hospital, which is for PC, coming August 30th. Freedom Planet, which is coming for Switch, is coming out August 30th. And these last ones are actually all on August 30th, so I'll just list them off. Haunted Dungeons, Hyakki Castle is coming for PlayStation 4 and Switch. Hero of the Kingdom 3 is coming for PC, and Azure Reflections is coming for Switch. So a lot of games coming out the same days, not very spread out throughout the week. So yeah, it's pretty much all I've got for this week and last week. So now we're on to the Minecraft Aquatic update, and it was labeled as one of Minecraft's biggest updates. We have like new mobs, new structures, new items, and by the way, if you guys were looking forward to the textures that were supposed to come out 1.13, they're not coming out anymore, or they didn't come out. And they're planning on releasing that in 1.14 or at least sometime in the future, because it's still a work in progress. So anyway, let's move on to the update. So first we're going to talk about the new mobs. So the first one is the Phantom, which was actually voted in by players. So it's pretty cool. And it spawns in the overworld at high altitudes, and it swoops down in groups of around 3 or 4 to attack players that have not slept in a while. So I got 3 or 4 off of the Minecraft Wiki page for the update, but me and also some of the friends that I play on the server with, they've seen less than 3 come at a time, like 1 or 2. So I'm going to say 1 to 4 just to be safe, but we could also be wrong on that. And the player must be above sea level in order for the phantoms to actually spawn. And they're considered undead mobs, which means that they are harmed by healing potions, healed by harming potions, ignored by the wither, and are affected by smite. So if you have smite on one of your swords, it's better to use that against the phantoms than sharpness. And they only last during the night. They will burn up in the sunlight, just like zombies or skeletons. And they have a chance of dropping a phantom membrane, which we'll actually get into later. So the next mob that we'll talk about are turtles. So they are water mobs, obviously, and they will actually make nests comprised of eggs on shorelines throughout different types of biomes. They have a baby variant, which will actually spawn from those eggs and move into the water when born and can be bred using seagrass. They spawn on warm beaches in small groups, lay eggs in their home beach. They can only lay eggs in their home beach, is what I'm saying. So you can't move the turtles to a different beach, like where your base is or something like that, and breed them there because they will not lay eggs there. So what you'll actually have to do is pick up the eggs using Silk Touch and move them if you want to make a farm. And they'll drop 0 to 2 seagrass upon death, and they'll drop. They have a chance of dropping a bowl for some reason when they're killed with a trident, which is enchanted with channeling. Well, once you know what the enchantment for channeling is, basically you can, if it's stormy out, then you can strike enemies with lightning when you hit them. And I don't know why it drops a bowl when you strike them with lightning, but hey, you get a free bowl. So, yeah. And then there's Drowned, which are essentially just underwater zombies, which can either spawn underwater or they can be created by a zombie drowning. And instead of zombies trying to swim in water, they'll actually sink. So it's actually pretty easy for them as soon as they get into water for them to actually turn into Drowned. But they are also much more dangerous as Drowned, so I will warn you on that. And they can spawn in all types of ocean biomes, river biomes, and swamp biomes. And they have some drops, and they have the same drops as a zombie, but they can sometimes carry a trident or a nautilus shell. And I've done some research, and I'm not entirely sure if they can or cannot have those items when they're turned into Drowned. Like if a zombie gets transformed into Drowned, I'm not entirely sure if they can actually get the trident or the nautilus shell. But if a zombie is wearing armor when it turns into Drowned, the armor will pop off without any damage attached to it, and it will also have the enchantments on it if it was enchanted. So if you want to get a zombie's armor, you might be able to lure it into some water and pop off the armor when it turns into Drowned and then kill it. We're going to move on to fish. So fish can be seen underwater, and you can catch them in a bucket. And so that goes for all fish, like new fish and fish that we've already had. So yeah, so there's cod, salmon, pufferfish, and tropical fish. Cod can spawn in groups up to 9 in cold, normal, or lukewarm ocean biomes. Salmon can spawn in groups up to 6 in frozen ocean, cold ocean, and river biomes. Pufferfish can spawn in lukewarm and warm oceans, inflate themselves when a player is near, and will deal 7 seconds of poison damage if you make contact. And then a tropical fish, which is essentially a clownfish, but now they have 14 different colors and patterns, and they can only spawn in lukewarm and warm oceans. And outside of water, they'll actually flop around before suffocating and slowly flop towards a water source and try to make it back. Yeah. So that's all the new mobs. And the 14 different colors and patterns that you can have lead to a couple thousand different, because I think there's more than just 14 different colors and patterns, because you can have a couple thousand different variations of tropical fish, which I think is actually really interesting. So if you want to, you can start making a collection of every new fish that you see, but it will be hard to remember which ones you haven't or have gotten. So then there's the new structures, which I'm pretty sure there's only new structures underwater, and so they are ruins and shipwrecks. And sometimes shipwrecks, I've seen shipwrecks be partly above water and partly underneath the water, and they'll also come in half a ship or an entire ship, or some part of a ship. And you can get loot inside both the ruins and the shipwrecks. When you're searching through the loot, you can find a treasure map, which will actually lead to a buried treasure, which I've only seen them near near or on a coast. So you usually have to do some digging in order to actually get the map, to get the treasure. And this actually has a new item, which we'll be talking about the new items soon. So yeah. So the new biomes are there's some in the end, which are the small end islands, and mid. So they didn't actually create any new biomes, they just labeled it more. So there's the small end islands, end midlands, end highlands, and barrens, which are all the end islands that are outside. So like after you kill the ender dragon, you can go through the portal. All of those biomes belong in that portal area. And there's also new world generation options. I won't get into it because it's very complicated and only people who actually know how to work their way around that will understand. So I'll just let you check that out for yourselves if you like doing anything with world generation. And so now we're on to new items. So Heart of the Sea, which is the thing that you can only find in buried treasures, and they can be used to make conduits, along with nautilus shells, which can be received by killing a drowned, like I was talking about earlier, or fishing. And so using the Heart of the Sea and a nautilus shell, you can actually make a conduit. And so to make that, you put the Heart of the Sea in the middle, and then you surround it completely with 8 pieces of nautilus shells. And so that'll give you a conduit. And you can... So I don't really know how to explain the structure that you have to build to actually make this certain thing, but it's basically like an underwater beacon. And so you have to place this special structure around the conduit using prismarine. And I'm doing a bunch of hand motions that you can't see here, so I'm trying to figure out how to explain this without hand motions. But essentially make rings around the conduit using prismarine. You can look it up. You can look up pictures or videos, and it'll give you night vision. It will give you it'll be able to make you mine faster, and also allows you to breathe underwater, so you don't have to like keep going up and down because you have a lot less breath now underwater. It's actually very useful, and it doesn't take very long to get if you know what you're doing in the game, especially since you can now find prismarine inside the ruins that spawn in the world. There's not many, so it's not like you can go around and get a bunch of prismarine from the ruins, but you can find it underneath the ruins in just a few scattered areas. And then there's also blue ice, which is a new ice block only found in icebergs, and it's actually slippier than other ice blocks. So like there's regular ice, and then there's packed ice, which a lot of people know will make items go farther and faster than regular ice does. And then blue ice is one step up from packed ice, and it can actually be made out of 9 packed ice. And I believe I tried to find this, but I didn't have a chance to test it out before I made this. But I believe you can also make packed ice now with 9 ice, so that would be a lot useful. But you can also find packed ice in icebergs now, which are actually pretty easy to find, so you don't have to find a ice spikes biome anymore for that. So no more biome hunts unless you really, really want to, because the icebergs are actually fairly big. You can find really big ones, you can find some small ones, but there's usually a good amount of them that you can find. And so then there's now coral that you can actually find underwater, which if you've seen anything from the new update, that's definitely one of the highlights that they made sure that people saw. So there's 5 variants of coral, and can only be found in coral reefs. So yes, there are multiple coral items that you can get, and they can only be placed underwater, sadly, and they can only be obtained with silk touch, or else they'll turn dead. Oh wait, no, that's for the coral blocks. For regular coral, if you pick it up, it'll just disappear. It won't turn dead, which is essentially a gray version of whatever coral you're in. So now the coral blocks, they come in the same 5 variants, and they must be mined with silk touch just like before, or it will or also turn into its dead variant. And it'll also turn into a dead variant if all 6 sides are not touching water. So yeah, you'll see, like if you have a coral reef, and then if there's like a big coral reef that has pieces in the middle, those pieces in the middle will most likely be dead. Though it does take some time for it to change, just like grass. So it's not instantaneously like if you were to put something on top of grass or something. Um, and it will also naturally generate in coral reefs. And then there's coral fans, which also come in the same 5 variants, can be placed underwater, and it can be placed on the sides and the tops of blocks, just like torches. And they can also be placed in air. I haven't been able to test much of this stuff for myself. So if there is something wrong, then please do tell me. But it will turn into dead coral fans after a short moment if you place it in the air. So, but you can still place it. And it naturally generates on the sides of coral blocks and coral reefs, and it can only be obtained with a tool enchanted with Silk Touch. So everything coral related has to be picked up with Silk Touch, so it can't be picked up with shears or like an axe, anything like that. Another thing that you can find underwater is kelp, which will actually be... It's pretty obvious to find kelp. Like, it's pretty easy to find kelp. It's found underwater. It can be smelted into dry kelp, which you can actually use to make dried kelp blocks, which can smelt 20 items per dried kelp block. It's almost 3 times as effective as coal. And then there's also seagrass, which is the item that you use to breed turtles. And it comes in a tall variant, and a regular variant, so just like normal grass, and it will generate in oceans, so all the oceans, rivers, and swamps. And then there's sea pickles, which generate in warm oceans, and especially around coral reefs. Up to 4 of them can be placed on a block. Each one adds 3 to the light level. And to have comparison, torches light up to 15. So it's actually not a lot. And they can only be placed underwater, and they can be smelted into lime dye, which is pretty nice. It's probably really the only reason I'm going to use them, to be honest with you. And then we have stripped logs, which are created by right-clicking a log with an axe. So, and then the wood block is just the... if you've ever been on some of the more professional servers that will have mini games and stuff, you will see sometimes trees will have bark on all 6 sides of the block, and so now it has an item form, and it will appear in the creative inventory, and you can also craft it, which is true for all 6 types of wood. And the way you craft it is 4 logs in a square make 3. They also follow identical placement rules to logs and other blocks, so what direction you're facing, essentially. And then there's the turtle eggs, which are the things that can be created by breeding the turtles, and stepping on them will actually break them, and zombie types, so zombie pigmen, zombies, drowned, etc., will try to step on them. And then there's slow falling, which is a new potion effect, which is essentially, it's brewed with a phantom membrane, so that's one of the things a phantom membrane can be used for. And it prevents fall damage, and you can also fall slower, and you can't trample crops. You could be jumping up and down, and you will not trample crops at all. And then there's another status effect that you can get called Turtle Master, which gives you a high slowness effect and a high resistance effect, and it's made out of turtle shells. And then there's Scute. They essentially spawn when a baby turtle grows into an adult, and they can be used to create those turtle shells to make into the Turtle Master potions. And the turtle shells themselves can be used as a helmet, which can add 2 armor points, and it grants 10 seconds of water breathing when equipped. And then there's also a new weapon in the game called a trident, which is one of the things the drowned can be carrying. And this new weapon can be both ranged and melee, and it deals 9 hearts of damage, which is pretty insane, especially, and that's without enchantments. And yes, you can enchant it, and it's only attainable by killing drowned. So yeah, you have to hunt drowned in order to get it, and it's a pretty rare drop, so I'd recommend going for looting 3 if you're going to attack them. But so channeling is the one that you can kill the turtle with, and it strikes enemies with lightning during storms when you attack, and it has to have the sky above you, so you can't be underneath the cave and still strike something with lightning, because it'll just hit the surface up above. And then there's Impaling, which is essentially sharpness, but for the trident. So it has a level 5 max, and it does more damage to sea creatures. So it's kind of like Smite or Bane of Arthropods, where Bane of Arthropods can hurt spiders more, or Smite can hurt undead mobs more. This hurts sea creatures more. I'm not entirely sure if you can put it on swords or not. That would be an interesting thing to test. I just thought of that. So yeah, if you want to give that a try, you can. And then there's also Loyalty, which has a level 3 max, and it makes its return when you throw it. Yeah, so essentially, if you were to, because it's ranged. Also, it's not just melee. And so when you throw it, it can hit something, and then it'll come back to you. And then there's also Riptide, which has a level 3 max, just like Loyalty, and it's not compatible with Channeling or Loyalty, so you can only have Impaling on it with it. And plus like Mending or whatever else you can fit on there, Breaking, etc. But it launches a player forward in Water or Rain, and it replaces the throw, so that's why it or Loyalty doesn't work. And it still can't. It still can't throw when it's underwater or in the rain. So no matter what, you're not going to be able to use it. But you can use the Riptide effect, which will actually like launch you forward in the rain. So you don't have to be in water, but you can be in rain, and it'll still launch you forward. And it actually displays a spinning animation when you use it, which is pretty interesting. So like I mentioned earlier, there's underwater caves, and then there's also underwater ravines. In my opinion, so far, there's a bit too many of them. Like, I feel like I see them too often. That it seems kind of unruly. So, and then magma blocks and soul sand will actually create bubbles now. So magma blocks will pull you down, and soul sand will push you up, or even other mobs or items. But it does have to be source blocks. So like you can't have a stream of something going, like a stream of water going down, and then put soul sand at the bottom and use that as like an elevator. Every single one has to be a source block, which means that you need to place a water bucket on every single block up your elevator if you decide to do that. And then the bubbles themselves, and the reason why I'm talking about making an elevator is because you actually you won't drown, because the bubbles will actually refill your not your health bar, your breathing bar. So like you won't drown in it at all, because it'll just replenish as you're losing it. And then there's more wood textures, and that's not adding to wood, it's for buttons. So now buttons can have a dark oak wood variant, acacia variant, etc., etc. Same with pressure plates and trapdoors. And now sadly you can't find pumpkins just carved by themselves. I always found that kind of funny and weird, but I always enjoyed it, so I didn't really care that much. But now you have to actually carve them with shears, so you won't find them carved at all anymore. There's also prismarine stairs and slabs, so now you can be more intricate with any designs that you do with the prismarine. And that only goes with the regular prismarine. I don't think you can make, you might be able to, but I don't think you can make prismarine brick stairs or slabs, or dark prismarine stairs or slabs. And then they also added a non-dyed version of a shulker box. So instead of when you obtain a shulker box, it'll be considered a purple shulker box. Now it is considered non-dyed, and you can dye it purple, and it'll turn into a different shade of purple. So it still has the same texture. It's just they added another texture to shulker blocks or shulker boxes that is considered purple instead of the variant that you get when you kill a shulker. And then mushroom blocks and stems will now appear in creative inventory, so you don't have to go into survival mode and silk touch a mushroom or spawn it in or whatever. And then there's also smooth variants for quartz, red sandstone, and stone, for the creative inventory. And if you don't know what that is, if you've ever seen like the like once again like servers like Hypixel or Mindplex, I think that's what they're called. Um, they will have they will essentially have what looks like two slabs are stuck together, but without the separating line in between. So it'll be a full solid smooth block, which is why it's called smooth variance. And that goes for quartz, red sandstone, sandstone, and stone, which is nice. But it's only in the creative inventory. You can't make it in survival, sadly. Um, so yeah, that's everything that I could find on the 1.13 update. I also saw something about petrified wood, I think it was called, but I couldn't find anything else on it, so I didn't really want to put it in this podcast because I'm not entirely sure what it is. Thank you very much. Game on.